I had finally become half crazed with horror and grief at the state of the world, was looking for some enlightenment. There came upon me at the trough of my life, at the point where I saw nothing but inexplicable suffering. There came to me the beatific vision, which calmed all my sense of horror at the world and my sense of the transcendent power of evil. And on the basis of this vision, I set out to write a book in which this was expressed in a way that made rational sense rather than simply mystical sense. That my mystical experience with the beatific vision had to be formulated into some rational structure that could be transferred to other people. What did this amount to philosophically? My mental anguish was simply removed from me, as if by a divine fiat. It was as if the primordial curse of fall had lifted from me, and that I was restored, healed. It was a sort of intervention of a kind of a psychological mystical type. VALIS, V-A-L-I-S, stands for Vast Active Living Intelligence System. What happened was that some transcendent divine power, which was not evil, but was benign, intervened to restore my mind, to heal my mind and heal my body, and give me a sense of the beauty of the world, the joy of the world, the sanity of the world. And out of this, I forged a concept which is relatively simple. And possibly unique in theology. And that is the basis of my insight after this experience is that the irrational is the primordial stratum of the universe. It comes first in time, and it is primary in ontology, in the levels of essence. And it evolves from irrationality, chaos, and blindness into rationality. That is, the irrational gives birth to the rational, and that the history of the universe is a movement from irrationality, which means chaos, cruelty, blindness, pointlessness, generates evolutionarily a rational structure which is harmonious, which interlocks, which is interlinked in a way where it is orderly and beautiful and harmonious. But that this comes into existence only fitfully, slowly, sporadically, like lightning discharges here and there, that it's not ubiquitous, as I supposed in the novel Ubik, that it's found in Jewish mysticism as it's called the Shekinah, which means divine presence. And the theory is that it's only intermittent and from time to time and from place to place. Now, I conceived of it as evolving out of the irrational, that the primordial creator deity was essentially deranged. We human beings are created, and yet we are more rational than the creator himself. The whole evolution of the cosmos is away from blindness, destructiveness, and pointless clashing together toward a coherency and a harmonious interrelation.
Alright, so let's get the show going. Let's take a minute here to allow ourselves to absorb this. This is really
awesome costume. My stories are attempts at reception, at listening to voices from another place, far away. They only come out at night, when the background din and gabble of our world have faded out. Then, faintly, I hear voices from another star.
Hello, I'm Terry Gilliam, and welcome to my drab little world. I've used PKD for years. It has brought brightness, sparkle, flair to my life and to my plates. It can do to you as well. One thing today I'd like to share with you, though, is a secret. Despite manufacturers' warnings, I use PKD washing up liquid to unclog my brains. Why don't you?
Well, the police once told me that I was a crusader and that they had no use for crusaders. But unfortunately, they didn't tell me what I was crusading for. I was afraid to ask what it was I was a crusader for. And they told me that if I did not get out of the county, I would be shot in the back or worse some night. It may have had something to do with my writing, it may have had something to do with my lifestyle, or a combination of both, but I was too afraid of the police to ask what it was I was doing.
Philip K. Dick is considered by many to be the single most significant science fiction author of recent times. For most of his life, Dick's 42 novels were filed away under cult author and rarely taken seriously. But since his death, the films Blade Runner and Total Recall have brought him mainstream attention. Dick's vision was formed by the changing landscape of California, a rural paradise that he saw bulldozed into urban submission. From a trash world ever more dependent on consumer disposables, Philip K. Dick created a fictional universe in which the line between human and machine becomes blurred. Your toaster might just have an opinion of its own. Your telephone might be plotting against you, and your video camera might be keeping an eye on you before filing its own report.
Phil was one of the last people to actually write predictive science fiction, in the sense that he saw a new world coming before it was there. He saw the consequences of a media-soaked world.
The chance to begin again in a golden land of opportunity and adventure.
He's one of the few writers who has the satisfaction of having got it right in a complicated way. The one book about the everybody's down in bunkers and they're having a false war broadcast down to them, and actually there's no war going on at all, it's just a media event. Well, everybody felt that way during, like the Korean War and Vietnam. In some ways, it was just a media event. And people got excited about it, and it was political. But, you became a connoisseur of the footage. And Phil knew that. And his heroes in the book are the people who are perpetrating the fraud. He enjoys their cleverness.
There's no culture in California, only trash. I do seem attracted to trash, as if the clue lies there. One must work with trash, pit it against itself. If God manifested himself to us, he would do so in the form of a product advertised on TV.
Hello, I'm Elvis Costello, and I want to tell you about this PKD collection. featuring such classics as Lies, Inc., The Man in the High Castle, Ruby.
Every 3 minutes, a baby is born with a cleft lip or palate. Many will not survive.
We are continuing our coverage of a new and deadly infectious disease.
The virus has some genetic elements of the Nipah virus.
The care of these patients requires extraordinary effort.
We cannot and will not voluntarily take patients from other hospitals.
The creation and intentional release of the Clade X virus.
The impact of not doing something has lots of consequences.
We can't retreat from the rest of the world.
Continuity of government here cannot be overestimated.
A federal quarantine of this scale is unprecedented.
The question everywhere, when will there be a vaccine?
We have got to engage the private sector.
They know that we don't have a vaccine yet. They want vaccines to be prioritized.
I would not want to pull those people back.
And we need on the ground to be able to assure protection of our first responders.
This is a non-starter. I'm going to need these people. I got this feeling in a whole lot of other places.
More than 40 countries are reporting outbreaks, and many more are suspected of having cases.
Leadership requires doing things that are oftentimes unpopular. This issue has the amazing capacity to be number 11 on anybody's list of 10 most important items.
We have been unbelievably weakened by this crisis.
What the world will look like when it's done is still very uncertain.
The government's helping with tax breaks or subsidies of that nature to increase manufacturing of those types of products. It can.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
We have known about caps-like viruses in animals and people for decades, but have not been successful at developing a licensed vaccine. And sure, there are new technologies that may help, but it's going to be difficult. I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
So the policy crisis in question for this board in this meeting is this. How should governments be
in these crises needs to be put together pretty quickly.
We are not out of money yet.
Where they move, how to move them. And that's where a type of public-private collaboration that we have not generally had in these crises needs to be put together pretty quickly.
Travel, we have to clarify this. Otherwise, if we go down to 20% bookings over a long period, the company will run down. That's a fact.
You know, there's a whole complex set of issues in a highly interdependent world on supply chains that are just in time. We need to think about how much flex there is in that just in time supply chains.